43-year-old single guy. Hey, Bill, I'm a 43-year-old and trying to figure some things out. Hey, dude, I didn't get married till I was 45. He goes, I got divorced about 5 years ago and then spent a full year completely alone. Not even a single date. I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, you were married for 5 years. You gave yourself 12 months to fucking... You got to remember who you are. You know, there's a lot of fucking shit out there about women losing themselves in relationships and coming out and having to, you know, get back in touch with themselves, which is 100% true, but that's a two-way street. It happens both people. If you're in a relationship that doesn't work out, both of you guys got your head spun around one way or the other. So I recommend being alone like that. That's good. The person goes on to say, after that, I wound up in a really toxic relationship that dragged on for almost 2 years. All right, now you got to start looking in the mirror there. Maybe go to therapy, figure out what you're doing here. He said, I've been out of that for about a year now, and I haven't been with anyone since. Been trying to put the work in on myself. I go to a boxing gym about 4 days a week, drop 20 pounds. I like this. Seeing a counselor twice a month. There you go. Dude, I could take some advice from you. I need to do that. And I've got a really good job where I supervise about 25 people on a plumbing and welding crew. I also play and write the music in a metal band. I'm sorry, dude. Are you living the fucking dream right now? You got a great job. You're boxing. You drop 20 pounds. You're talking to somebody to work on yourself. And you write music and play in a metal band. Dude, like, it's just like... He said, think Lamb of God, Pantera. And I don't know this band. Amon Amarth. I'm going to check them out. If they're in the vein of Lamb of God and Pantera. Chris Adler, Vinnie Paul. Art Cruz now with Lamb of God. See, I know them all, man. But here's the thing. I've never felt more depressed in my life. Yeah, you know why, dude? Because you're still a human being. You need to find love. That's all right. That's all right. You know, it's good that you know that. He said, most days I'm just going through the motions and putting on a fake persona to get through the day. But when I'm home, the feeling of desperation and loneliness is almost too much. I've got people you could technically call friends, but I never hang out with them. Well, why don't you hang? I'm terribly introverted and deal with pretty severe social anxiety. All right, well, this is good. You're talking to a counselor. And why don't you do this? Why don't you start with just one hang a month? 1 day a month. I love that you have all of this anxiety, but you're playing in a band. I mean, this is very typical of, you know, people that perform. I still have a lot of social anxiety, and I go to events and just, you know, I want to, you know, air quote, want to get the fuck out of there. The reality is I don't know how to, like, do it. So I get in my head and then I'm just, you know, I'm a mess. So I relate to that. This person goes on to say, I've been listening to your podcast for years and I'm looking for some advice. What would you tell a guy who's done all this work on the outside but still feels like he's barely holding it together on the inside? Appreciate your time and thanks for all the laughs. Go fuck yourself. Dude, I think you're doing amazing. I was going to say to talk to a professional. It seems like you're doing that. If you want to grow, this is just my opinion and I'm not a professional, obviously. I have found that you have to give yourself permission to fail. So you have this anxiety. I would just, you know, once a month, once a week, whatever you can handle. Like I literally, back in the day, I used to say to myself, I am going to go into the deli and I am going to make small talk with the person behind the register. And by small talk, all it literally was just saying, hey, how are you? You know, and they would say good or whatever. And if they said, you know, if I said, hey, how's it going? And they said good. And then if they said something back, you know, yeah, I'm doing good. You? Yeah, I'm fine. I would count that. And that would be a victory. And then, like, I would just use that to just expand. It's the same thing like you got a band, right? And let's say that you're selling tickets in the town that you're in. But the next town over, they don't know you. So that's the next step. Let's be known in 2 towns, and then 3 towns, and then in this county, and then in this city, and then in this state, and that's how you do it. I mean, obviously, you don't have to be that big with your social life. So you just sort of baby step your way out of this stuff. And, you know, I actually think that the anxiety and all of that, a lot of times that's what steers you in to performing, being in a band, being a comedian, being an actor or whatever, giving tours of your city and you're the person on the microphone. Like it's like human beings need some sort of interaction, human interaction. So it's actually a positive thing that you're depressed. If you weren't depressed and you were spending this amount of time alone, you might be a psycho. So the fact that you're depressed, this is all, you know, I think normal, and your soul telling you that this person by yourself is not who you are. You're actually a really social person, and you're actually going to be good at it. It's just whatever happened to you as a kid, which you'll work out through counseling, you just need to push through it. And I've found with therapy that there's a lot of shit in your head that you think it's a mountain because it happened to you when you were a little kid. So your universe was really small, so these problems seem gigantic. And by the time you're an adult, it really ends up just stepping up onto a curb. And I still, to this day, I will make a mountain out of a molehill. I get all in my head that these ideas, these things, I make rules in my head that I can't do. I can't do it. And I have worked really hard to push that voice down, to tell it to shut the fuck up. You know, anything I could do. Like if I would think something, I would, I read things to cancel it out loud, which was a weird period in my life because I would be walking down the street next to people and all of a sudden randomly I would just say out loud, no, fuck that. So you're not alone, dude. I am in a lot of ways still where you're at. And it's caused like problems in my relationship because my wife is very social and she sees who I really am at home, and then I go out and I pull back or I get negative and I start trashing. I go to my safe space, and I start trashing wherever we go, and it ruins her good time. And then she gets mad at me, and then I get mad and blah, blah, and it just becomes this fucking nightmare. So I've really had to work on being like, take a deep breath. No one's going to beat the fuck out of you. No one's going to hurt you. Nothing bad's going to happen. You're literally just going out to dinner. Like I've literally had to do that. So, if I can do it, so can you. I think you're doing the right thing. You're putting the work in, and you're going to get on the other side of it. And then one day, like I'm trying to help you, you're going to try to help somebody else. And that's how it works. Okay. So, good luck to you. I think you can do it. And I'm really psyched that you play in a fucking metal band. I think that's cool as shit. You actually writing the music. That's pretty awesome. All right. There you go. There's my positive words for the week.